If I'm not the boss, there will be no boss. In addition, they control the narrative. Controlling the narrative is a form of spiritual warfare. How the story is told, it determines how the people will respond. Okay? And so what happens in an unhealthy situation is someone will try and set what I like to call a negative narrative. Set a negative narrative, and then all the data is interpreted through the negative narrative. It's a form of lying, and it's a form of dominating and controlling. Proverbs says the first person to tell their story sounds right till you hear the other side. How many of you have learned this as a dad? You got kids. One kid runs in, tell me what happened. You're like, well, let me check. Let me check with the other kid. Because just because you heard one side of the story, it's not always the same side of the story. I'll give you an example that comes to mind. Some years ago, my son, I had a kid at our house. Kid came running in. Our kids were little. And the kids cried, throwing a fit, all hurt. Mom looks at him. What happened? Pastor Mark's kid punched me. The mom looks at me. She's like, your kid hit my kid. What are you going to do? I said, well, let me go ask why. I got to research. I go in, and my son is there, and his little sister is crying. Very big tears. She's physically hurt, not just emotionally, physically, emotionally hurt. I said, what happened? He said, that big kid kept picking on my little sister, hit her, shoved her, yelled at her. I told her, you stop picking on my sister or I'm gonna punch you. And he kept picking on her, so I punched him. Hey, so his name was Jezebel. And so then the mom looks at me, she's like, your kid hit my kid, what are you gonna do? I said, I'll be back in a minute, I'm gonna get him ice cream. Yeah, see, it's like they get a reward. See, we build men up to bless women and children, and that starts with little men. Okay? And so what happens is if you control the narrative, everybody runs to a conclusion, but actually the person who's innocent could be the one who gets punished. This happens all the time. It just comes to mind again. There's another story in the Old Testament, a guy named Joseph. Okay, you see Ahab, Jezebel, or Elijah? He's Elijah. Potiphar's wife, Ahab, Jezebel, or Elijah? Jezebel. Every day, I mean, he's in the castle, she shows up, she's like, let's do it. And he's, no, I can't do that. I love God and I love your husband. So then she says he raped her. He goes to prison. That's the narrative. He was innocent. He was Elijah, she was Jezebel. He didn't do anything. She lied about everything.
It was time to update my business card.
She lied about everything. What a Jezebel likes to do is get very emotional, very loud, tell their story first, get on social media, make sure they're setting the story because it's a form of control. She does this with Naboth. Again, back to the story in 1 Kings. Naboth cursed God and the king. Therefore, he needs to die. That's not the story, but that's the story that she told. They also love to control a mob. They like to get as many people in as possible. It's a troop buildup for the battle.